But first, the Colonial Pipeline is back online, but America has been exposed in a massive way. This pipeline system was hijacked by Russian criminals, shutting off fuel to the entire east coast of the United States. Gas prices, which were already on the rise, spiked even further. Thousands of stations still out of gas as we speak, and things likely, we are told, won't be back to normal until sometime around Memorial Day. That's a couple of weeks from now. And tonight we're learning that Colonial, get this, they paid a $5 million ransom in their desperate attempt to get their systems back online. Joe, where was the federal government on this? Why was Colonial left to fend for itself against international Russian criminals? Or did your administration actually approve the ransom payment to Russian criminals? Because, you know, ransom payments, in case you didn't know, that incentivizes future attacks. Why not do it again? Clearly worked the first time. And by the way, what are you going to do about Russia, Joe? What are you going to do about your friend Vladimir Putin? Have you called Vladimir? Did you even ask zero-experience Hunter to call his Russian oligarch friends that paid his company millions of dollars for no experience? Or maybe you're just too tired, Joe. But here's your nightly reminder. Joe, you're the president of the United States. We're going to have to respond here, Joe. What are you going to do? Now, true to form today, the cognitive mess that is Joe Biden, he didn't seem to know anything about pretty much anything. Take a look.
And as for the people who carried out this attack, the FBI has released details on the attack so others can take steps to prevent from being victimized like Colonial has been. We do not believe, I emphasize, we do not believe the Russian government was involved in this attack. But we do have strong reason to believe that the criminals who did the attack are living in Russia. That's where it came from. We're from Russia. We have been in direct communications with Moscow about the imperative for responsible countries to take decisive action against these ransomware networks.
Can we get the $5 million back in ransom? No clarity, no strength, no leadership whatsoever. That means America's enemies, they see all of this happening and unfolding, and they also see how weak Joe Biden is. And now we're living out the Jimmy Carter nightmare all over again, frankly, on steroids. Inflation, look at this, up a whopping 4.2% in April. That is the highest number in 12 years. That means every single consumer good you buy at the grocery store, at your drugstore, Lowe's, Home Depot, it's going to cost you more every single day. Massive gas shortages up and down the East Coast. Look at your screen. Half of all gas stations, Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, are out. 70% of stations ran out of fuel in North Carolina. Even more, 73% in Washington, D.C. Good things winter's over, because Joe would be telling you to turn down the thermostat and put on your sweater to conserve fuel, just like Jimmy Carter did. Now, when America's enemies are walking all over us, and when they can see a weak, frail, cognitively struggling president, and when they know his fledgling administration is ready, willing to appease wherever, whenever possible, they will, and they are already all taking full advantage. Joe foolishly already reinstated, hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to the Palestinians 40 days ago, likely being funneled to Hamas in these attacks against our ally Israel. They are attempting to ease sanctions against the world's biggest state sponsor of terror, Iran. They're the ones supplying the rockets now being used to strike Israel and commit acts of terror worldwide rather. And thanks to Joe's war on American oil and gas, well, we're now buying more fuel from, of all places, Russia. You can't make it up. Which, along with Iran and China, we now know is supplying weapons to Yemen for the proxy war that they're fighting in the Middle East there. Joe's weak, his feckless policies are so terrible that now 44 senators have written a letter to Joe. Hey, Joey, they're begging him not to lift sanctions on Iran, as the mullahs are funding and supplying the ongoing Hamas terror attack to our friends in Israel. Why on earth would you give a dime, a penny, to a country that is actively trying to destroy your greatest ally in the Middle East? the #1 state sponsor of terrorism worldwide. You know, death to Israel, death to America, burning Israeli flags, American flags. It's not just a meaningless chant. It is backed up by constant terrorist actions, weapons, training. Could you imagine what would happen if Iran ever develops nuclear capability? That cannot happen. That could end in a modern-day Holocaust when you marry radical fanaticism of the mullahs in Iran with weapons of mass destruction. That is a danger too eerie to think about, too chilling to think about. But according to the radical socialist base of the Democratic Party, oh, they're standing firm on their belief that Israel, the victim, is evil here. Led by the squad leader, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she wants you to believe that Israel isn't even a country, just an occupier of stolen land. Apparently, she wants the millions of Jews in Israel to just get lost and hand over the keys of their thriving democracy to the terrorists in Hamas. AOC's fellow squad members, in this case, Congresswoman Omar, well, she just accused Israel of ethnic cleansing. Congresswoman Tlaib said that Benjamin Netanyahu should be tried for war crimes. You can't make any of it up. So from the squad, we see it before, we see it now, and that is, virulent anti-Semitism. Remember what I've been telling you, the squad runs the Democratic Party. The New Green Deal socialism, that is the squad's plan. Nancy Pelosi, Chucky Schumer, Joe Biden fear the squad, and when they say jump, well, they're just asking how high. Given this kind of logic, rhetoric, is anyone really surprised that an anti-Israeli protest in New York, well, that erupted in violence as the crowd attacked a passerby, leaving this man bloodied and bruised? Keep in mind, the left rarely has anything negative to say about Hamas. They are a terrorist organization that oppresses the Palestinian people, uses them as human shields. They often fire their rockets from schools and hospitals. They vow in their own charter to wipe Israel off the face of the planet as part of their, quote, struggle against the Jews, unquote. Thank God for the Iron Dome, which you can see here in action. We showed you last night. This technology was developed in partnership between our allies Israel and the United States. In a better time, in a better place, it shoots rockets right out of the sky. And so far, Hamas has launched a whopping 1,200-plus projectiles into Israel, many of them aimed at high population areas. Why? For maximum impact and maximum damage and death and injury against innocent civilians. Without the Iron Dome, the human cost would be unimaginable. And breaking tonight as we speak, there are now Israeli troops amassing at the border with Gaza. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.